And today we're going to talk about slabs. It might help if I shared my screen. There we go. That's better. Minimize a couple of things. Okay, terrific. All right. So, wanted to talk about slabs today, and specifically the slab tool, which can be used for a variety of modeling tasks, but most obviously foundations and flat roofs. So those are the two primary cases that I'll be taking today. And then we can see where that goes. So I'm going to start with the foundation. I just happen to have this little project that we're currently working on where we're excavating a few feet in order to put in an accessory structure. Specifically, the foundation is this portion here that I wanted to talk about. Very simple little garage foundation. Well, that's in the wrong layer. Oh, there we go. That's just how that goes. You can see that what I've got is I've got a slab for the garage. It's extremely crudely modeled. If everyone could please mute yourself. Thanks. And it's got some retaining walls on all two sides and part of a third. And then I've modeled some grade beams. And really, in this case, the slab itself is pretty dramatically underused. So I'm going to use this as an example of how I might do a better job with this particular slab. This is kind of a schematic slab, and maybe when it comes to CDs, we're going to refine it a little more carefully. I do want to draw your attention to the fact that we've got this garage door over here that's grayed out on the left. And then we've got these sliding doors over here on the right. So those are if we're going to address those with the slab model, then we may want to think about how those elements would meet the slab. And then just sort of further dissecting it, if I open up my object info palette here, and I click on the slab itself, you can see that it is, in fact, a slab right over here. It's a very, very simple slab. In fact, for some reason, it's unstyled, but that's okay. And everything else in this foundation model is actually a series of walls, right? So these grade beams are just a wall style that's in a foundation footing class. And then this retaining wall is another wall style, but that is in the, it's in the foundation class. The structural slab class. So very, very simple kind of modeling exercise here, and really, I would say underutilizing the slab. So if we look at the components of this particular slab object, if you're familiar with wall components, it looks very much like that. We have an unnamed and single component. It's 6 inches thick. And we're defining the Z height of that component or that slab as being relative to the top of the component. So if I have the Z equal to 0 here, then the top of the slab is at 0, and then it works its way down from there. And then I set the relative height, obviously using the layer, probably with using stories. Now, obviously it's a garage, so there needs to be a slope to it. And if I go to plan view, The garage door is over here. You can see it. I've got it faintly grayed out. And what I've done with these grade beams, again, is I've used those as a wall style, or used a wall style to create those. And in top plan view, that class is set to be dashed. And I draw it in stacking order forward of the slab itself, so that if I have that class turned on, I can see the grade beams and they're dashed, and that's how I would expect to see a foundation plan. So even though in Z, right, these grade beams obviously are underneath the slab, in top plan view with a stacking order, those grade beams are stacked above the slab in terms of the order in which they're drawn on the screen. Okay, so let's look at one of the benefits of the slab object as opposed to a floor object. So I'm just going to do a little bit of real quick drafting here, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle from the inside of one foundation to the other, or one retaining wall to the other, and I'll just make it 4 feet wide. And then I will, let's see, how do I want to do this? Yeah, so let's go ahead and there's the frame wall that's grayed out. So I can go to the inside of the frame wall and draw another rectangle all the way up to here. And then I'll zoom in over here at this little piece of frame wall or retaining wall. So I've got these 3 rectangles that I've just drawn. And what I'm getting at here is I want to draw the slope, or I want to model the slope for the slab. And there's a little bit of complexity here. So actually, let me go ahead and group this and go inside the group and show objects outside the group just to make things a little clearer for myself. There we go. I've just traced the little piece of retaining wall that's over on this edge over here. So let me turn that off. So I'm going to take these 2 rectangles and I'm going to clip them from this one. Clip surface. Okay, because I'm, just too darn lazy to draw a polygon. I like drawing rectangles and clipping to get this shape. So that is the actual footprint of the slab that is going to slope. And so I'll go ahead and give that an extrusion. And I don't know, let's give it an extrusion of minus 3.5 inches. So if I look at that over here, right, you can see there it is. It's just this really quite simple little extrusion. And ultimately, if I go to a side view here, what I really want for that extrusion to do is I want it to slope, to represent the slope of the slab. So what I'll do is I'll just duplicate that extrusion. So I now have 2 of them, and I'll just make the second extrusion, instead of negative 3.5 inches, I'll just make it negative 5 inches. So it's 1.5 inches thicker, and that's a negative direction. So you can see I've got one extrusion here and then another extrusion that's a little bit deeper. So I'm going to take the first extrusion, and in my 3D model, I'm going to taper face. That's the tool that I want. And so the way that works is I can click on a face. Let me zoom in here. Okay. And yeah, I'm going to cancel that. Let me escape out of that. Bring that to front, see if that works better. So let me taper the face. So what I want to do is I want to click on this face first, and then hold down the Option key to get the bottom of that slab, that first extrusion. And then I can just slide down and snap to this point here. It's very nuanced, but you can see now, if I show it to you on the side, you can see that the bottom of that first extrusion is now tapering. Essentially, the first face that I clicked right here, that was fixed, and then the second face that I clicked, that's the face that's hinging, if you will. So I'll go ahead and I'll delete the other one, the deeper, the 5.5 inch extrusion. So that was just there kind of as a guide so that I knew how far down to slope the bottom of that extrusion. So, you know, again, pretty subtle. And now this one over here, that's going to be my wheel stop. So I'll extrude it. Actually, I won't extrude it all. I don't need that. I'll show you why. So I'll just delete it. So I'll exit the group and I'll ungroup it. So now I've just got this generic solid. Let me go back to my top plan view. There we go. So so here's that extrusion that I just created. And then let me go ahead and turn off my footings there. So there's the slab right there. Okay, let me go back to my wireframe view. And there's the extrusion or the tapered face that I just made. So I'm just going to select these two, just like I would if I were to do a model command, subtract solids. Only I'm not going to subtract solids using the modeling command, because what that would do is it would just turn the resulting slab into just a generic kind of a 3D solid. Instead, under my AEC menu, I'm going to subtract 3D object from slab. All right, so this command is specific to slabs, and it works in principle kind of like subtract solids. And so now I still have a slab, and if I render it in OpenGL, you can see that it has been sort of carved up, right? So there we go. Now, the nice thing about doing it this way is if I go to top plan view, right? Let me move it aside so you can see it. That slab is essentially it's a hybrid object. It is showing the as I would expect it to be displayed in 2D. So I can see the wheel stop because I've subtracted that, and there's all of the part that I've subtracted. So I still have the garage door to deal with. So let's go ahead and we're just going to rinse and repeat. I'll just go to the frame and I'll trace that with another rectangle. So there it is. I'll extrude that in -5 inches, say. Right. And then once again, I'll click on the, not this, that's the retaining wall. I'll click on the slab. There we go. And under AEC, subtract 3D objects from slab. Okay. And you can see that I've carved it up just a little bit to put that little lip, right, that I would expect to see for the garage, right? So basically what's left over is a little curb here for the frame wall, and the garage door can sort of pocket down. And I can do the same thing at this sliding door that we can just barely see here to here. Again, like my rectangles. Right, maybe that one I make -4.5 inches. And once again, subtract 3D objects from slab. Okay. And there we go. So let's go back to earlier view. Yep. So Now, obviously, I'm getting to a point here where my slab is getting really unrealistically thin right here at the edge. So I don't know if I can fix this because I made that an unstyled slab, but I should be able to. So I'll go ahead and go to the components and just change the thickness of this from 6 inches to say 9 inches. Okay. And likewise, I can use my select similar tool and select all of those grade beams, AKA walls, and move them down 3 inches. There we go. Okay, there's somebody in the chat. Let me see what's going on. Yeah, so Christopher wants to know if we could just make a roof face. Yeah, you can, but the roof face doesn't allow you to do lovely things like let's click on this slab and right click on it and we can edit the modifiers. So here's all the modifiers that we had that were subtracted from that slab. So this is for the garage door. Instead of giving it an extrusion of -5 inches, let's make it -6, right? So now I've got a little pocket that they can set the garage door. So I've got a little lip so water doesn't, in a gully washer, get back into the garage. I can't do that level of refined sculpting, if you will, of a roof face. So a roof face might be a nice solution for kind of a quick and dirty model. But if I want to get really, really precise with my modeling, again, the slab is nice because it's automatically a hybrid object. So it appears the way I expect it to in 2D top plan view, and then I can sculpt it however I want as a model.
Francois, real quick. So what I meant was a roof face as an alternative to the generic solid that you used for the garage slope. So we use
a roof face and subtract that,
and then ungroup the roof face so that it's no longer sort of a smart object. It's just what you initially back engineered. Gotcha. When you ripped the bottom
so
does that work too, do you think?
Well, certainly if you are in a 3D view and you convert and you explode the roof face and just turn it into a solid, then definitely you can subtract it. You may even be able to subtract it and leave it a roof face. Okay. That's an interesting take. I haven't tried that. So could be. Cool. Now I can get even more detailed with my sculpting of the slab, right? So those of you who are real picky about your drawings, as you are looking at this slab in section, you may find it extremely troubling that I don't have a chamfer here where my grade beams meet my slab. That might really bug you, hypothetically, right? So I like this technique of just drawing walls as grade beams because it's very quick and it has the benefit of if you set up your wall styles correctly, it'll show dashed. So graphically, that's kind of nice. But if I wanted to be a little bit more detailed in my modeling of the slab, right, I might take a different approach. So let's look at that. So here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and find these grade beams with my select similar tool, and I'm just going to delete them. And then I'm going to take that slab and go to its components, and instead of making it 9 inches thick, I'm going to make it 39 inches thick. And so now the slab has just grown. And I'm going to use the automatic active plane function of the rectangle tool and just draw a rectangle and snap it to the underside of the slab. So I've got this nice little rectangle here. And so now, having drawn that rectangle, what I can do is select the center point of that rectangle and make it 24 inches narrower and shorter. So I've essentially taken 12 inches off the perimeter. And then maybe what I'll do is I'll duplicate that and make it 12 inches wide. And then I'll duplicate this and make it 12 inches wide in the height. So now I've got some nice guides, and I can draw this rectangle, and I can draw this rectangle and this one. And that one. So now I have these 4 rectangles. I'll go ahead and extrude those 30 inches. Negative 30 inches. I'm just going to group them so that I can see them in isolation. And I'm just going to pivot over here to the top. And I'll go to my chamfer edge in 3D and set the setback to, say, 6 inches. And under settings, I'm going to get faces. And I'll hit this face, the 4 top faces, and hit the checkbox. Boom. Now I've got these chamfered voids, if you will. I'll exit that group and ungroup it. So I'm now back to it. It calls it a chamfer. It's 4 discrete solids, but they're all chamfered, so it's one object. And then, even though it's discontinuous, and then I'll select that and the slab itself, and we'll go back to AEC and once again, subtract 3D objects from slab, and there we go. I still have those rectangle guides floating around. Send that to back. I can't seem to grab them. They're there. There they are, 2 rectangles. All right, and so now you will be relieved as we section through here. Oh, look at that. It's a thing of beauty. I recommend that you use the wall trick, the wall style trick, until you're sure that's where your grade beams are, and then do this solid subtraction. So anyway, so there's all sorts of sculpting that I can do with my slab, and so that's one of the things that's sort of nice about this tool for foundations. I mean, you'll have noticed that there's also a add 3D objects to slabs. So for example, if I didn't want to do the retaining wall as a wall, but I just wanted to do that as an extrude along path, for example, I could add that to the slab object and get this really kind of sculpted thing. And I'm kind of going out on a limb here, so I'm just going to drag and duplicate this slab. Turn off the clip cube. There it is. So let's look at under model volumetric properties. So it's giving me 662 cubic feet. Let's go ahead and ungroup that. Oh, that just makes a generic solid, and let's do that again. Model volumetric properties. Yep. So, so you know, if you're curious how much concrete you need, there you go. Another advantage or benefit to reasonably precise modeling. So obviously I could have the bottom of the slab slope. There's all sorts of I could cast in a shower and slope to drain, like just whatever I can model, I can subtract that from the slab and it stays as a slab. Now, one of the things that you can, yeah.
When you go to your top view, do you still get the dashed lines for your grade beam when you do that?
No.
All right.
No. I'll lose those. Yep. Life is trade-offs, man.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, so there's that guide that I had before.
Couldn't you do a dashed in line?
Yeah, I could do a dash in line. Hey, Don, how are you? Yeah. Yep. Under view, rendering, I could do a dash in line. So yeah, there's some ways I can rectify all that. I was going to say something, but it slipped my mind. Oh yeah. So one of the things that I haven't mentioned is that you notice how you're bounding here in the object info palette when I click on the slab. Your bounding is manual, right? In other words, I just drew a rectangle and turned it into a slab from AEC, create objects from shapes. Or I could have just gone to the slab tool. Where are you, slab tool? I could have gone to the slab tool. I think it's over here. Slab, there we go. And just drawn one, right? But another thing I can do with slabs is, you know, I can draw a series of walls, for example, and then I can grab the slab tool, and instead of drawing it, I can just pick some walls and hit OK. And you can see there's a slab right here. It's just a generic slab. It's not styled or anything. Put it in my foundation slab class. There it is. So it's picked to the outside of the wall, right, and or to the inside of the wall. And if I take that wall, for example, this one, and I have my connected mode for walls, and I just drag this wall up, the slab follows it. So that's kind of nice. Now, if I have this kind of detailed sculpting and I just reshape that slab, for example, by just sliding it out here, well, I picked a direction that isn't so bad, but if I go this way, right, Vectorworks doesn't know that my voids between my grade beams needs to follow along. So again, here, if I wanted to sort of work out where slabs and beams were and so forth, it might make sense to have go ahead and draw those grade beams as walls and then have my slab sort of follow along, either to the inside or to the outside or to some offset, right? So you can see, this is a technique that I might use sometimes, is have the thickness of this be the thickness of a masonry lug, for example. Anyway, so those are some options with slabs. Okay. Any questions about the whole subtracting and adding?
Yeah, I have a question. It's Bill Benfield. So I'm looking at what you just did, but I'm thinking of another possibility. So, for example, like you have a slab that needs a brick ledge all around. So basically,
yes,
it's in and it's an inch and a half higher. Can you just put a slab on top of that? Can you add two slab objects together, or they always stay as separate slabs?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So a better way to do that. Let me just make a real quick one. Okay. So I'll make it 20 by 20 just because it's easy for me to deal with that. So here's my rectangle, and I'm going to go ahead and under AEC create objects from shapes, a slab. Okay, there's my slab. I'll put it in the slab class so that we're all happy. And I'm going to go ahead and replace it. It's unstyled, and I think I have a couple of different slabs here. Yep, here's a concrete slab right here. Okay, to reclass it. So this slab, you'll see, has two components. Let's look at that. So in this case, I've created one component, which I'm calling the top, and then the remainder of this 30-inch deep slab is another layer called the grade beam. Okay, and you can have multiple components on your slab. So I'll go ahead and draw my rectangle, and you want that to be generally 5.5 inches. So here's another rectangle. I'll clip surface. So now I have this shape here. I'll extrude that, say 1.5 inches. Okay. And I will go ahead and select these two objects, and under AEC create, subtract 3D objects from slab. And so my, there it is. There's your lug. Now, if another option, instead of making that an extrusion, okay, is I can just leave it as a polyline. Do you see how it's a polyline here? And I can, instead of using this AEC subtract 3D objects from slab, I will go to simply a modify clip surface. Because remember, a slab, like a roof or a floor, is a hybrid object. So it has these kind of 2D components embedded with it. So I can use the 2D clip and add surface. And when I clip a 2D shape from a slab, right, I have an option. One is to apply that clip to the entire slab. Same thing for an addition. The other is to apply that clip to just one of the components of the slab. Now, in the first example I was giving you, that slab just had one component, so it just didn't make sense. But here I've set this slab up to have two components. It's got the 4.5 inch topping, and then it's got the grade beams. And so I'm not going to clip it from the grade beams. I'm just going to clip it from the slab itself. And now when I do that, and I look at it in 3D, it kind of gets what you want, right? But that masonry lug, that brick lug or stone lug or whatever it is defined by the thickness of this top component, which I've set up to be 4.5 inches. So that's the depth that it's going to be. So I've got a couple of options when I'm sculpting my slabs. One is I can do all of this 3D geometry, which obviously, that I was explaining it along the way, but that took a little bit of time. Or I can be able to do something that's a little more quick and dirty and just do it as a series of 2D clips. But then if I do that, then I'm sort of limited to all or nothing on a component, and I can't slope or anything like that. So this would be another way to do grade beams, right? I'll go ahead. I set up my two little grade beam guide rectangles. And so I'll just draw these 4 rectangles for the voids, except I didn't do that right. I need to take 12 inches off of these two. and then 12 inches off of these two. If I'd just done an offset to begin with, would have been so much easier. All right, so there's my 4 rectangles, and I can click on the slab and once again modify clipped surface and apply it now just to the grade beams. So I'll just select all that and deselect everything but the slab. And then, as Don suggested, let's do a hidden line rendering or dashed hidden line. Well, it's kind of hard to see, but there, you can see it. Huh, looks pretty good. And of course, I don't get the little chamfered grade beams. And if I decide, you know what, those grade beams look kind of shallow to me, I can just go ahead and, ooh, let's try to replace the slab with the concrete slab deep. And I'm gonna go ahead and, yep. Yeah, it looks good.
How many components?
So now I made it. How many components can I have?
Yeah, you do the.
I don't know.
The,
I've never run out of components.
more, the 3 is no problem.
Yeah, 3 is definitely no problem. 7 or 12 or 15. I mean, you know, you will have more trouble keeping track of them than Vectorworks will. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So, and now this one, right? If this one, if I do a reshape, again, because I'm not reshaping the underlying 2D geometry that is doing the clipping, then, you know, I'm not going to be entirely happy with the results. But let's say I reshape this and I move it, say 8 feet. Okay. I can go into the modifiers by double clicking on the slab and move this over 4 feet and then move this over 4 feet. It didn't like that. Oh, well, it kind of liked it. It liked some of them, didn't like the top one. So yeah, that's another thing, is that when you modify components, if you change the type of component that it is, then, you know, it basically treats it as a new component. So it looks like I'm gonna have to redo that brick lug, but anyway, so this kind of 2D clipping is a lot faster than the 3D modeling and 3D solid subtraction, but the trade-off is that you've got, you know, it's faster, but you don't have as much control. Yeah. All right, good. So with that, let me go ahead and close this out. I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to close it. Okay. Can you guys see this flat roof? I'm not sure what I'm sharing. Yeah, I think you should be able to.
Yeah. Yep, sure can.
Okay. All right, so here's a little flat roof project. There's the roof. It's actually a, you know, series of flat roofs. They look pretty darn flat, but if I click on one of them, you can see from the highlighting that I've got these very subtle valleys. In fact, I've got some here and I've got some here. Like, you know, it's just flat roofs galore. And you can see that I've even gone a little crazy and modeled a bunch of trusses, right? So let's see, how did I do this? So this is a slab just like the garage that I just showed you. It's a different slab style, obviously. Let's go ahead and edit the slab style. And just as we're not actually going to edit it, but we're going to see how this puppy is built. So it's, I'm assuming 18-inch trusses with tapered insulation, a membrane on top. Obviously there's decking. I'm going to give myself a void because the insulation is not the full depth of the truss, and then I'm going to give myself a ceiling. So I've got essentially double insulation here. I've got the tapered insulation to make the slope of the roof, and then I'm assuming that I'm going to foam the underside of the deck for additional insulation. So so the way that I've built this is there's a component, and look, we've got 6 components here. Was that Bill asking about how many components we could have? Anyway, we've got 6 components here, and it's, you know, pretty easy to deal with. I've made the membrane probably a little thicker than it is realistically. I've just kind of rounded it off to an eighth of an inch. It's probably not quite that. I have my insulation that I've allowed to be a thickness of 6 inches, but notice that I've got this column here that says tapered. Yeah, and so I can decide which of these components is tapered. So that's another way that I could deal with a garage slab, for example, is to create a tapered component. In this case, I'm making the insulation tapered. So at most it's going to be 6 inches, but it will taper down to 0 if need be. And then I've got 3/4 inches of decking. And then I've got my insulating under my deck. I'm assuming 6 inches of insulation. Then there's going to be a foot of void that I just put in the non-plot class. So that's just my air gap. And then I've got a ceiling below. So obviously if I delete this, the trusses are completely independent in the model of the slab itself, right? It's not, the trusses aren't part of the slab. I want to make that abundantly clear. So I've got this nice slab. Go back to my working plan, right? And you can see that I've got all these slopes. So I'm just going to well, since I've got this all set up, I'll just leave that alone. Let me go ahead and make another one. I'll just draw an arbitrary rectangle. And under AEC, I'll create objects from shapes. There we go. A slab. Okay. And here it is, flat roof truss. It's the same style as this one. As you can see. And so when I double click on the slab, oops, sorry, that's not what I meant to do. It's my 3D modeling. Here's my wall. There we go. So in my building shell tool set, let me move this back over here where I want it. Sorry, gotta have my desktop where I can find things. Okay, so in my building shell here, there is underneath the slab, there is a slab drainage tool. And so I can insert or edit a drain. I can insert a drain. I can connect them, and then I can create a valley. So we could play with roof drainage for a long time, so I'll just be pretty basic about this. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this drain, and if I go to my edits here, there's some slab drainage settings. So I can select a default drain symbol. So in this case, I just want it to drain to a point. There is no actual drain, and the scupper is just a symbol that is inserted in the parapet wall. And so I'm not going to select a symbol, but there's a whole library of rooftop drains, right? So if you're doing kind of a commercial flat roof that may drain inside the building perimeter to a wet column or something like that, right? There's all sorts of different options that you could choose there, but I'm not going to do that. And I can have the notes and elevations and slope arrows either in the slab class, or I could put them in different notation classes or my dimension class, and so on and so forth. I can define the minimum slope as a percentage, the default slope, all of these different parameters. So I'll go ahead and insert a drain, and right here on the midpoint. And then let's go ahead and just put another drain over here, boom. So there you go. I've got, I wonder why that's -9. I'm not sure. Back to my slab tool. I'm sorry, my slab drainage tool. Right? I can edit a drain. So here's the, when I click on the edit mode, that's that first mode right over here. Right. Here are my objects. Right? So I can change this angle and have it slope, that valley slope to the midpoint here. I can change this one and have that slope to the midpoint. I can change this one and have that slope to the midpoint. And I'm not sure why that one's not showing up, but it should. Right. And I can also edit. So I can set my minimum slope to say be 1% and my default slope to be 3, or whatever. And in 3D, it's gonna look something like that. Oh, I see what's going on. So I've got a lot of I had some classes turned off. So this is what the slab looks like, sort of without all the other modeling attached to it, right? You can see there's my 6 inches of insulation. Turn some classes on. So if I zoom in here, right, you can see there's my gypboard ceiling below. There's the void that's taken up by the trusses. The trusses extend into this insulation layer. There's my decking. And then here's my tapered insulation that is has the little membrane on top. So I may decide, I don't really want to drain over here. Let's go ahead and go back to these drains, and I could connect these 2 drains, see what happens there. Right. So that's just going to create sort of a butterfly roof. Just
What's wrong with that, that created emptiness on the website previously? Because it looked like the lines were offset vertically.
Don, I couldn't hear anything you said. I'm sorry.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my laptop's away monitor. So
Now I definitely can't hear you. Don, you there? Okay. Don, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Chime in again when you get your mic fixed. All right. So I could connect those two drains and create a butterfly. I could just take this drain and right click on it and delete it, and right click on that and delete it as well. And then I can just create, insert some new ones. So I'll put one over here and put one over there. All right, that's a little bit more like what I was expecting. So now I've got this 3% slope, right? And so if I look at that in 3D, you can see that it is sloping away. Don, you want to give that another try? I think we might have lost Don. I think Don's probably rebooting because he's not here. All right. So that's a simple-minded example of drainage, but as you can see, it can you can get lots of scuppers and kind of a complicated little roof drainage design there. The tool works pretty well so long as you get your parameters in place. So for example, on this one, if we go to my drainage tool and we look at my preferences, you can see that I've got the drain notes and elevations in the non-plot class because I don't want to see them, but I've put the slope arrows and the slope values in my notes architectural class, and I've displayed my precision rather crudely, and I can define the line length.
Francois?
And again, yeah.
I believe I've used this tool to do floor drains, like for showers and things like that. Is it the same tool?
Yep.
Those were all roof drains, but I found a regular floor drain, so that's just a different group of symbols.
Yep, absolutely, you can do that. Oh, maybe Don's back. Don, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, terrific. I can hear you loud and clear. What was your question?
Oh, yeah. So on the slab or on the roof slope before, when you first did the roof on the left side, you were missing one of the lines and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just curious when we looked at the model, it looked like there was a drop of about 6 inches or whatever on that left side that they didn't connect up. And then
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and then Zoom bumped me off, and then it decided to update. So that's why I disappeared.
Oh, well, welcome back. Yeah, Zoom loves to update itself at the most inconvenient time, like when you're trying to get to a meeting. Yeah. I think it's because my roof was so small and my drains were close enough together, like I had them on the short ends here, or the long ends, so they were the short distance apart, that Vectorworks couldn't resolve the slopes the way that I had set them up. Like,
Okay.
and I think that's, I mean, it looked glitchy, but the problem was that I was asking Vectorworks to do something that mathematically it couldn't do with the slopes. That's why on this roof I changed my slopes to 3%. Make those a little bit bigger, right? So I set those to 3% so that the slope was steep enough that it could kind of do its thing.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And again, you can just use the the slab drainage, the preferences here. So I can put the elevations, say, in, as I was saying a moment ago, in the non-plot class or some class that is turned off. Right, so that goes away. So that's much cleaner and probably more like what we're used to seeing. And those arrows look kind of anemic to me. So let's make the arrows like 3 feet long instead of 2 feet long. And then I can also change my default slope to, now if I start making my default slope, say 2%, my minimum slope 2%. Interesting. Guess it didn't recalculate. All right, maybe if I edit this. Nope. Yeah, so I might need to start over once I change those minimum slope values.
Hey, Francois,
Yeah,
back when you did the butterfly roof, is there a way to do a
Yeah.
trick to get the you know, the higher thing in the middle to pitch to the edges? So you got a
you mean
V.
like a cricket?
Yeah, cricket. Yeah. How would you do that in
Uh,
that case?
Yeah. So I see that handle point here that I've got grabbed. I would probably snap that to here, and then snap this one to here. And then of course, maybe this may break it. Let's set the default slope to something like a 3/12, which is what, about 14%. I might need to start over for that. Let's go for it. There we go. So let's, oh, I need to edit my drain. Sorry, wrong tool. There we go. So that's going to be a butterfly roof with obviously the cricket, right, all the way to the edge.
Yeah.
But I think I can change that and make the cricket, you know, something like that. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's wanting to make a flat roof with wonder what happens if I connect my drains. I'm going to lose my cricket if I connect my drains. Yeah. So it probably needs a little bit of playing around to do that the way I would probably want to have it, not have the cricket go all the way to the roof edge.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because it wants to, I think I may be able to remove valleys. Let me check that out. Hold on. Well, that'll let me create a valley. I don't think I want to create a valley. Yeah, quite the opposite. Yeah. So, but again, the idea here is that I can, you know, I can taper a portion of that roof, but not everything is necessarily tapered.
So couldn't you to do the pitch of your garage floor? Like pretend like there are drains just at the edge of the garage and then make the drains a 16th of an inch in diameter?
Yeah. In fact, these drains are just a point. Yeah, yes. You could do that. Where it gets a little tricky with the garage is if I want to do a wheel stop, right? And so yes, you can drain any slab, right? And the only thing that's sort of conceptually different about this slab and the one that I started with is that I've specified which of these components gets tapered when I drain. And it has multiple components, right? So, but that's it. I could have a component in that garage slab that was taperable, and other components that were not. And then, you know, obviously, I just need to get a little bit more precise about the height of my little scupper symbol here. That's a little too high. All right, so that it actually drains to the through the scupper, and so forth. So those scuppers are just independent. I'm just placing them after the fact or before the fact, and then I just point the drain of the drainage of the roof towards them, like so. Okay, any other questions before we wrap up?
Yes, I have an only somewhat related question. It's regarding your trusses.
Yes.
So if I understand, there is a truss tool in the not in the architect version, but in the what's the other version? Anyway, so have you found a good way to draw trusses that's not so laborious?
Yeah, these are trusses, the framing member that you get with architect.
It is.
There it is. Sure is.
When did that happen?
Long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, the type is a wood floor truss. I specify the height. Now I don't have a lot of control over the spacing, right? I'd have some control. So the panel spacing, I've got it at 24. I can make it like 18. And so now I've got a larger boxed opening for my mechanical in the middle bay.
And can you do tapered trusses?
Okay, come on now.
I know. Well, that's my most immediate need. Sorry. But no, this is huge. I didn't even know this. So this is great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I don't, not with this tool. It could be with the structural member tool. You can do like roof trusses, but this is for floor trusses.
Great.
The framing member is for floor trusses, and it's an old tool compared to the structural member, which got some pretty cool improvements, by the way, in 2023, which was just released yesterday. So, and what I've been running today, but that's a topic for another day. But yeah, these floor trusses, I just built those with the framing member tool. I did not go and, you know, hand model.
Okay.
I did not hand model all of these trusses. Even I don't have the patience for that.
Okay, so like if you were doing a timber truss, you just would build that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That I would build, but for just a standard roof truss. And again, it could be that functionality you're going to find in the structural member tool, which is a more modern tool. I built all those trusses with the framing member tool, which is in your detailing palette.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you so much.
Framing member. Yep.
Great.
Got right there.
Excellent.
Okay. Check the chat real quick. Don't see any questions. Anything else before we sign off?
Hey, Francois, it's Keith here. I have a quick question.
Hey, Keith. Yeah.
For your roof plan, and you had a lot of annotations that were telling us information about the slope percentage and you're in your design layer. But what control for over the graphic quality of those annotations do you have in a viewport or in a sheet layer, for example?
No, I don't. Now, it could be that you could make a data tag object that would read the roof slope, but I kind of doubt it. So my solution for that is, as odd as it sounds, the roof object as a whole, I'm just under text, I'm giving it a font. In this case, my go-to is Calibri, and a font size, say 9 point. And then under the, if I have the slab drainage tool activated and I go to the settings, I can assign classes to drain notes, the elevations, the slope arrows, and the slope values. So I could put those in different classes. But that's just about all the control that I have. So I can't like take that arrow and move it over here. I can't, you know, whatever. So in other words, the annotations are happening on the design layer.
You just anticipate your viewport scale and make those settings appropriate.
Yeah. I'm kind of old school. I still make my design layers at specific scales like 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch. I don't do all my design layers at 1:1. I know some people do, but for the reason that sometimes design layers are controlling graphics for tools like this, that's one of the reasons to scale the design layer to something that you can anticipate. Exactly right.
Yeah, and I think you're right on. The kind of recommended practice is to set your design layer at a scale that is closest to what you would actually show in its viewport.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you very much. Nice presentation.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks. All right, so since Vectorworks 2023 is hot off the press as of yesterday, I wasn't going to thanks everybody for delaying this meeting by a week. I had a commitment that I couldn't get out of last week, so I appreciate your patience with that. But next month I won't do an exhaustive tour of 2023 because I think Vectorworks is doing a pretty good job of that. But I might will highlight a couple of features that I think are so that I find sort of most exciting, and some thoughts about those. So that'll be next month. And thank you again very much. And I'll happy to entertain emails offline if something occurs to you, and I will see you at our next meeting.